Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Cognition Ignition. So one thing I've wanted to share with my followers for a long time is my brain scan imaging that I had done with Dario Nardi. I had this done about 5 months ago, and I finally was able to put it together into a presentation for my followers. I'm going to go through the brain scan imaging, um, some of the findings that come up from the imaging and the report that was provided to me by Dario Nardi. Before I get too far into this, I do want to let you guys know that this was really a demo. I volunteered to do this in front of a group of other people at a personality hacker event, and it could have been a little bit more formal, but I did actually do a lot of things that I kind of would do on a regular basis, and I wanted to share what the brain wiring shows. So um, the tasks that I was actually doing during this brain scan session were meditation, word association, picture analysis, and an explanation of my interest, which had to exclude type. I wasn't allowed to talk about type. I had to talk about another interest. So I talked about grappling, so Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling, and my experience with those. Um, so from this first picture right here, you can see that there's a bunch of lines connecting different brain regions. You have red lines, green lines, yellow lines, blue lines, and black lines. First thing to know is that the red lines are the strongest connections. Um, then the other colors represent weaker connections, but the yellow lines represent a starburst pattern, which is known for its people who have the starburst pattern are usually like creative subtypes or harmonizing subtypes. Um, what you can't really see is that it also has diamond patterns and then just some links. So I kind of want to show you guys first what each brain region means. You have FP1, FP2, F3, F4. I'll leave the screen up so you guys can read that. And what you'll see is my strongest connection is between FP1 and FP2. So I have strengths in focusing, deciding, explaining, refining, fixing, and staying positive, as well as exploring, brainstorming, having fun playing, introspecting, reflecting on a process. Um, and I also have a strong connection between FPZ and P4. So what that means is your own emotional intelligence. I know my thoughts. I know how to manage them and my emotions very well. And then that connects with P4, which means I feel my own body sensations and may feel other people's emotions. I weigh many factors, risk, and uncertainties at once. I think a big reason for this showing up so strong was because I was doing this in front of a group of people. When I present things, I am often like feeling my own body sensations. Um, Trying to keep myself calm because like a lot of other people, my heart rate does accelerate. I do get sweaty hands and things like that. So I try to stay calm when I'm presenting. Even currently in this video, that's something I'm doing. So I wouldn't be surprised if those brain regions were working really strong right now. Um, and when you actually get this report, you can go and click on these lines and it'll tell you what patterns are showing up. So I can actually show you this through this next slide. My three strongest networks were my Starburst Network. So that means I'm highly creative, intuitive, and inquisitive with a tremendous capacity to connect data in novel ways. With every new input, every part of your brain gets involved to consider its potential meaning or use. I am talented across subjects, humanistic, artistic, technical, and physical. And I am a generalist and maybe visionary. And I am definitely a generalist. I don't always consider myself a visionary, though at times I can be. Um, the big thing is that I may struggle to focus and can waste time and energy trying to respond in a new or exciting way when not needed. Even something like putting together this presentation, I wanted to make it more interesting than it needed to be. So that's why it took so long to get out there. And I finally settled down and said, okay, we're just going to present it. What comes up through this video comes up. My second strongest is a multi-diamond bias, which when I click on, I can see these different ones, and I will show some of these regions of my own, show you so you guys can see what regions of the brain are working to create this diamond network, and then a center bias. So I do think that this probably has a lot to do with my time in weightlifting and jiu-jitsu, making sure I'm always staying physically fit and healthy. I think it's an important part of life, and I do probably use that brain region a lot because of my activities that I resort to a lot. One thing I do want to point out is that one of the tasks was meditation, and I actually had a very hard time getting into any kind of meditative state, which I've talked about on this channel before. At one time, I really didn't think meditating was for me. When I got back into fitness, I realized that as long as I was working out beforehand, meditating wasn't so hard to do. The day that I actually did this demo, I said to Dario, when he asked me to meditate, I was like, I didn't exercise today. And basically, when I close my eyes to meditate, I feel like a TV waiting for a signal. My eyes are moving, rapid eye movement, and all those kinds of things. So I wasn't really able to get into any kind of meditative state. Um, I do think if I had worked out before as rigorously as I do on a regular basis, I would have been able to get more into a meditative state. Uh, but before working out, getting into those states was very hard for me anyway. So I know the reason for not being able to do that. So now we can go into how he does this is each region of the brain is going to correspond to a different skill set. So it also, as you saw on the first slide, there's slow modes, fast modes, and combined modes. How these rank 1 through 6 is going to change whether you're looking at a fast mode, slow mode, or combined mode. I think this was my fast mode that I'm showing right here. So in my fast challenge mode where I'm solving a problem, maybe something new, my first strength is system balancer. My second strength is being an insightful futurist. Number 3 is a precise speaker. Number 4 is a tactical identifier. Number 5 is a driven dynamo. And number 6 is a scripted guide. So I won't go through all of these, but we can kind of just read the captions for them so we can get an idea. So a systems balancer is going to be good at weighing many factors at once, pros and cons, highs and lows, risk and uncertainties, viewpoints and missing pieces. I get an overall impression, such as a group's potential, someone's mindset, or your own well-being. Locate, balance, leverage, or aha insights. With overuse, may miss key details. What I've talked about on this channel a lot is being a systems thinker, understanding all aspects of a system in order to make it run smoothly. So I do really agree that that's something I like to do. It is a challenge that I actually like to face, which is why I think it makes sense that it falls into uh, the fast mode. I'm also very good at noticing patterns, see how events connect, linking where I am right now in my history to see where I want to be. That's how I know right now that I want to open a gym. More than a gym, really, it's a wellness center that I eventually want to open, where I can help people do this on their own because I can do this myself. I can do this for others as well. Um, the only thing I don't really with overuse, you may worry a lot or just know things but cannot say why. I do that a lot of the time. Usually I can. I know where I know things from. Uh, I don't usually struggle with knowing why I know something. I can usually trace it back to the lesson I was taught or something where I had failed, where I know that there's a reason to do or not to do something. Um, Now, with being a precise speaker, I do think that I'm surprised this is number 3 actually. Though I have worked on this a lot running my companies, having to have staff meetings and things like that. I have worked very hard to become a good speaker, using the right word. Specifically for me, I want to use the word that the person I'm talking to is going to understand best. Um, so if they use a word and I have another word for it, I'd rather use the word that they're using. So that way I can make a point in a way that they can best understand. Also, if they are using a word that doesn't fit so well, I would like to give somebody um, a better word to use and try to keep track of a conversation by using that word. Um, Being a tactical identifier does make a lot of sense to me. I think that I would have thought that would have came before a precise speaker with my time in jiu-jitsu. Because Jiu-Jitsu has really helped me become alert to challenges, threats, personal space, think tactically, label and compute moves, act in a team or a pack. Jiu-Jitsu, you might not so much a team sport, but you do have your teammates. Um, Integrate a vision and motion, and with overuse, may be overly self-protective. I definitely agree with that. I am overly self-protective. I don't put myself out there as much as I should, I believe, because I think about the repercussions of doing so. And even if this is in a mental way, I still feel physically at risk sometimes through this. Number 5 is driven dynamo. I'm highly physically or mentally active. I'm strongly motivated towards success, which is why I created this channel, was to help other people be highly motivated towards success, because I've been doing that for so long. Often in multiple interests and able to coordinate many elements and bring them together. This is how I'm currently bringing together type and fitness. I do think that as I'm coaching people in my own practice, it's on a physical basis, but also if you really want to help people improve, you have to help them on a mental basis as well. So bringing things like type and other psychological concepts to their improvement is something that I do a lot. And I also do this for myself. I do move pretty energetically. People often say I have presence when I enter a room. And honestly, a lot of times because of this, I can seem like very anxious or hyperactive, especially when I get into this type of mode, this fast problem solving mode. I want to solve problems quickly in the best way. So a lot of this makes sense. And then number 6 is scripted guide. And I can see that being number 6 because it's not something I actually love to do. But if I have some kind of blueprint in front of me, or something that I can follow, I can usually do it very fast. I have to do this with data input and things like that, or explaining things. I like to have some kind of framework to follow in order to expedite whatever it is I'm doing. So I also think that it helps really bring emphasize important information, being able to do this, like color coding things. And this also actually does help with Jiu-Jitsu as well, because Jiu-Jitsu is just a process of controlling somebody to submit them. This is also wrestling. So I can understand how things are supposed to move from point A to point C or D and follow those pretty accurately when I need to. This is things that I've specifically tried to do this for. Even making videos, again, I'd like to talk about this because making videos has been a big area of improvement for me in development. I like to have a script of how I like to do these, but I don't necessarily follow. This isn't number 1 because I don't follow that script fully. I still like to be able to improvise and do things more sporadically than just following a script. So what I'm going to show you next in this slide, these are just stereotypical brain regions that you can see, or networks that you can see. Some people have a bias for the front, center, back, and back. Then you get down into bias for a diamond network or multi-diamonds. Some people have starburst, some people have hidden starburst. Some people are really focused on audio. And actually, while I was going through my own demo, after I had done that, other people had gone demos, and I saw some of these other patterns, like the zigzag and random field patterns, which is completely different than what my pattern showed, which I thought was very interesting because we were being we were having the brain scan done at at the same time of day, pretty much one after another, and you can see that it wasn't just the same generic pattern over and over again. Some people really did have completely different brain wiring from myself, and they were of different types. So I thought it was really interesting to see that. So now I can go into some of my regions that I saw in my report. So these are just basic circuits that I have in my brain. These are pretty strong because anything that I'm showing you are kind of strong. As you can see, I have a circuit between FP1 and FP2, which we talked about in the beginning of this presentation, which is just the focus, judge, and curious explorer. So these are the prefrontal cortex, and I have strong connections between the two. Another circuit that's not so strong but is still there is the circuit of sensitive adjuster and self-manager. And another circuit that I have is a connection between system balancer and self-manager. So these are just basic circuits, a 1-to-2 connection, a 1-to-1 connection goes from A to B. And then after this, you can look for diamonds. So this was one of my diamonds that I'm showing you here. As you can see, pretty much everything had focused judge in it, which is why when we look back at my strengths, okay, well, we're going to just stay here. So focused judge, FP1, visual engineer, inductive scholar, insightful futurist are all together. They fire together, which is why they make a diamond. And to make a diamond, you need to have activation in regions in the left, right, front, and back hemisphere. So they connect, make an actual diamond shape in your brain when you're doing something. And these diamonds often have to do with a specific mode that you use. So through experience, you develop these modes of interacting with people or task, and you crystallize these. I always talk about the diamonds as like crystallizations. And then my second diamond is between a tactical identifier, sensitive adjuster, curious explorer, abstract impressionist, and driven dynamo. So this one, it actually has 5 regions, but they're still crossing the hemisphere to make it. So it's not actually a diamond. It's 5-sided. It's a 5-sided figure, but because it has the requirement to be called a diamond of crossing the hemisphere at 4 points. And then my last one was a starburst. I had 2 starbursts, but for consistency, I stayed with my fast mode. And my starburst had 8 of the following regions light up at the exact same time when solving a problem. So deductive analyst, scripted guide, quick analogizers, precise speaker, witty classifier, flowing artist, emotive listener, and an observant technician. And what you're really supposed to do is take each of these strengths and kind of figure out why these would overlap. So in one task, I had to actually look at a picture. I had an older lady and a younger lady, and it was in black and white, and I was told to say what was going on in this picture. So I had to basically take a scripted guide to read the facial expressions, be able to analogize what was happening, be able to present this. I was speaking out loud, saying what I was seeing, be able to classify the expressions of somebody's face. And there's more pieces to this. I would have to go through each one to break this down, which I do, but I'm not going to do it in this video because it would take up a lot of time. And that's just what you're doing, is you're trying to see why these regions of the brains are all working at the same time in a certain task. And then at the end of the report, what you get is something that tells you your orientation. This doesn't have so much to do with type. It tells you more so like how do you use your cognition to orient yourself in the real world. So these are the 2 orientations. My favorite focus is the social orientation. I do understand the importance of taking care of the social aspects in order to reach a goal, get people on board with things, and follow through to that. But my favorite style is also abstract. So, which I kind of knew. I am an intuitive type, and I always knew I'd prefer more abstract than concrete, but it's still a pretty good balance of 60-40. Getting somewhere around like 50-50 is around where you want. And I do know that I do use concrete. I do orientate myself towards the concrete world when I need to. It's not something that's necessarily my favorite, but I can do it, which is why I think you don't see such a big split. So this is basically the report. If you actually get the report, you do get a lot more information. You'll have something that tells you all of the codes. You'll see a bunch of different comparison models to compare to with other stereotypical brain regions, things that you can go click on to understand what's going on. So it is very interesting. And just at the end of this video, what I want to talk about is like the reason I think this is very interesting is because I think that I can use this with the people that I'm coaching to help them kind of get this neurofeedback of the benefits of what they're doing. One big thing is I think that everybody should work on their fitness. If you haven't done it yet, you should start. And I think that what would benefit people is if they can begin working on their fitness, do that for 3 months, and say like maybe they want to work on their focus. So you see where their brain region is before they start working out, and then after 3 months of working out, did they build any strength in being able to focus? That's just a simple thing. As for myself, I told you uh, when I wasn't working out, I couldn't meditate. Once I did start working out, I could meditate. Still, I need to work out in order to meditate, but I do have a pathway to strengthen the regions of my brain that would um, be used while meditating. So I do think that there's a lot of potential for the future application of this type of thing. I do think that learning how to actually do the brain scans is quite complex. The equipment is expensive. I would like to um, help find a way to make it more affordable to people and make it more of a norm to, you get a coaching client, you scan their brain, you figure out what areas they want to improve on, and then find find a realistic approach to improving on those, and then being able to verify that those regions were improved through the brain scan imaging again at a later time. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share this with you guys. If you have any questions, comments, let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next episode of Cognition Ignition. Thanks.